Hello guys, and welcome to this little video. I'm doing this because one of my subscribers, Justin Ludwig, asked me how I handle substitutions in replay basketball. And anybody who's got the game knows that the players have to rest a specific, it would be if I could say it, amount of time, and it's there on the bottom corner of the card in this box here. Tells you how many minutes per half a player has to rest, and it's either 1, 3, 6 or 9 minutes, and that's per half. So Courtney Lee here has 6 minutes rest per half. Now the rules as I understand them in the actual game are that you can rest them 6 minutes in each half anytime you want, apart from in the second half if they're not rested by 6 minutes from the end of the fourth period, then they're fatigued for the rest of the game. So in general you don't have a lot of trouble, because normally your starting lineups are 3 and 6 minute players, so it's not too difficult. But if you look at this game that is my next game, let's see if we can just zoom in on the cards for a moment and then zoom back out there. Oh, that just happened to be the two people I want to talk about. It's the Clippers and New Jersey Nets 2010, and these two guys here, Ricky Davis and Steve Blake, are not part of the normal starting lineup. They are 9-minute players, and the reason for that is that in the previous rounds of the tournament that I'm playing, the players have either been ejected from a game and automatically miss a game in this tournament, or they've been injured and they've got to miss however many games, and so two of the Clippers starters are gone. So I have to cater for 9 minutes for each of these players. So the first thing that I would do is, when I'm picking the lineup, when I've got my starters, then that affects the players that are on here, because obviously I need point guards and shooting guards to cover 18 minutes per half for these two players, and of course the bench in this case for the Clippers, they're all 9-minute players. Just going to pause for a quick sip of coffee. So normally, if you're timing through, if you've got the little thing that you can use to time, the little chart, if you want you can keep exactly to 12 seconds. The time they've missed. If you use the cards, then you'll know that in the cards you get a set. I've done them. I haven't done them yet. But you get a set of 1 to 9 timer cards. I'm just going to pause and I'll set this deck. In fact, what I shall do, let me just zoom this out. I'll show you how I set my deck up. As I said, in the fast action deck you get 63 cards, and you get 9 of these timing cards, and what you should do is after 15 cards put the 9, and then after 5 of each of the cards put the next one down, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5 down to the 1, and then you've got 8 cards. And I'm assuming that it allows for more action in the last minute of the period, because it's a bit more frenetic. Now I bought the PDF version of this, and if you've got the game board version of it and you've gone and bought 4 packs of these, then it's quite expensive. So what I did is I've printed 4 packs of cards, so that when I set up for a game I can set up 4 sets of fast action cards, and I don't have to keep messing about setting them up. But anyway, back to what we're on with. What I've also done is I've printed another set, and I've put 10 and 11, so I've got every minute of the game. So what I will do is I'll count 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and put that's the 11 minutes, because that's the first one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9. I'm just going to keep going now. So it's 5 cards for every minute. I know we're a bit off the track of what we talked about here, but you'll see the way I substitute in a second. And that's the last card, so there should be 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. So that deck is set, and I do that with all 4. And then what I do is set them out randomly, and I'll roll 3 dice, red, white, and blue. Red has to be less than 4 to pick the first set, and then the white one is 1 and 4 is the first pack, 2 and 5 is the second pack, and 3 and 6 is the third, and then the blue dice, odd or even, and that gives me this sequence of which the sets of cards are used. So it's all sort of randomized, and if the red dice is greater than 4, I roll them all again. So remembering that the basic rule is you can do whatever you want, keep track of time that they're off, and anybody in the last 6 minutes of the forward period that hasn't had their rest is fatigued for the rest of the game. And on my mat here is the fatigue differences, offense and defense. So now on my score sheet here, I've got the players listed and the number of minutes they have to rest, and then the boxes at the side. So to start off with, everybody's on the board, and we play the game. So normally you start playing and turn over the cards, blah 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 blah. 1 minute has gone. Second minute's gone, and I usually discard these on the side, but I'm doing this because the pack's set for the game. And I would normally go to 6 minutes if I've got a normal set of players on here. So at 9 minutes, because I've got 3 players, one for New Jersey and 2 for the Clippers. And let me just change my angle of the camera so I can show you what I've got above it. So I've got another set of these counter cards that are 9 all the way down to 1. So if I just come back here, I'm going to make a change, and I'm going to bring, let's say, Mardy Collins on for Ricky Davis. So Mardy Collins will go in here, and what I do on the score sheet is 3 minutes have passed. So where Mardy Collins is a 9, I will put a 6 in that box. So I know he's still got 6 minutes to give. And then up here, rather than putting him back on the bench, I'll put Mardy Collins there. And I'll probably make another couple of changes, get the 9-minute players off. And then I will come back and play the next minute. And when it gets to that card, I can make changes if I want. But what I will do here is I'll move him 1 down, so he's only got 8 minutes left. And let's say I take Mardy Collins off and I bring somebody else on. I'll put Mardy Collins there because he's only got 6 minutes left. And everything moves down as the minutes go. So it's like that. And when they get to the end here, he falls off and he's available again. Or, obviously, if I take Ricky Davis from here and he's got 3 minutes left, but I need him to play, then in Ricky Davis's box here, I'll put 3 minutes, so I know he's got 3 minutes left. Once once he's done his allotted time, I just put a box in, I fill in the next box, and I put a line all the way across for the starters and the top 3 of the of the bench, because as you can see probably better now, if I see if I can get a bit bigger than that. The bottom 4 here, I've only got a single line, so what I'll do is I'll just block that off and then move on to the next one. So if we had somebody on 6 minutes rest, and we just zoom out a bit, and we get to the 6 card and he hasn't come on the field, then I will find his box and I'll cross it off and put the line through, so I know he's available at any time. The other thing I've done on this score sheet you can get off the internet, but I've adjusted it slightly because I've put timeouts here, because when we get to this card, where's my little indicators? Let's use the dice, it's easier. Let's say that the Clippers have got the ball. If the Clippers have got the ball and these guys need to make a change, then at that card, tough, because they can't call a timeout. So if we were to carry on, let me zoom out a bit. So let's assume that we're at this situation. The Jets want to make, the Nets want to make a timeout, but they don't have the ball. So we turn it over, play the game, and it comes to here. So they go, yeah, we're calling a timeout. And we want to take off Brian Lopez, who is 3 minutes. Now, because we've passed the minute mark, and this is my rule, and you know, it's not the rule of the game, you work out how you want to do it yourself, but this is how I do it. If he's past the minute mark, then he has to rest 3 minutes at least. Therefore, he starts off at 4 because he's not on the minute mark. And that's just the way I play it, and I'm consistent with all teams. And so, you know, if they don't, if the team that's got the ball at the time when we're at the minute mark don't call a timeout, and the others want to, then they add the extra part of the minute onto that player, and they don't get any benefit from it with the rest of his time. He has to do 3 minutes and however many cards. So that's how I play that. Now, similarly, if somebody's in foul trouble and we're mid number, let's move back to, so if somebody goes into foul trouble and it's not on the minute mark, the next card that's turned over, then that person again, if you bring him off, he add the minute. So if it's a 6 minutes, he has to go 7, so it's 6 and whatever is left in that other portion of the minute. The only other rule I use is that if a player is fatigued at the end of the first period, so he's not done enough minutes in the first period, sorry about that, still getting over the after effects of COVID. He's not fatigued throughout the game. The rule says that if he's done his rest, then he's available and he's not fatigued. And similarly with all of this, you know, it's if he's done his rest, he's fatigued. And same in the last 6 minutes. I don't play that in the last 6 minutes. If you hit that 6 minute mark and you're fatigued, you can rest the rest of the game. You're still fatigued. But if he's fatigued at the end of the first period, if you want him to play, so let's say Ricky Davis is 9 and he's only done 8, so he's going to be fatigued until you start him resting. So if you rest him from the start of the second period, I play that he has to do the 1 minute and then immediately has to do the 9 minutes. He can't do a minute and then come back on and say, well, I'm fully rested now. He has to do his 9 minutes straight afterwards, so he would be off the court for 10 minutes. That's the way I do it. It's not the rule of the game, but very rarely does it happen. But it happened in one game, and I'll just show you the game sheet. It was a really interesting game, to be quite honest, and this is the game sheet for it. New Orleans Hornets against Dallas. Let me see if I can zoom in. And the story to this was that Dallas had only 11 players, but New Orleans only had 8. And as you can see from down here, at the end of the game, they had 5 fatigued players, and it cost them in the end. They were doing really well up to the 4th period, but because I just didn't have the minutes on the bench, they ended up being fatigued. They managed to actually not get anybody out on penalties, which was an achievement in itself. So they actually got quite soundly beaten. So that's how I do it. Wrap up for Julian, just to be clear about it. So each player must have their rest period in the first and the second period, and it must be before the last 6 minutes of the second period, otherwise he's fatigued for the rest of the game. I play substitutions on a timeout or when the ball is out of play, which is this clock stopped. So if there's a basket, I don't allow them to change players unless they call a timeout. If it's on the exact minute of the card, they still have to call a timeout unless it's a foul or an out of bounds when that card turns up. And the timeouts are critical because when you get to the last play of the game, you can take a desperation shot, and if you've got a timeout and you have possession of the ball and you call that timeout, you've got a better chance of hitting the shot because you're at half court. So you have to be careful in using your timeouts if you're playing timeouts, which makes it a more interesting game. So anyway, all players have to do their rest in the first half and the second half before the 6 minute mark of the 4th quarter, otherwise they're fatigued for the rest of the game. You can change on the ball being out of bounds, clock stopped, or team calling a timeout. They can call a timeout any time, and when they come out, in my case, I mark it on the board how long they got left and use this to move the players down so I know when they've done their time. You can take them off here to bring them on, just keep the minutes on the scoreboard. If you don't make your 6 minutes or your 9 minutes by the time the 6 minute mark of the final period is, you're fatigued regardless. And if you don't make it to the end of the second period with all your fatigue time, then you're fatigued until you have rested continuously the amount that you didn't rest in the first period plus your normal rest period. So I hope that helps you how I do it, Julian. As I said, it's my way of doing it. It might not be the right way, but it's my way. And like all us gamers, we find ways to make the games better. For instance, the way that Dave Gardner plays at-bat hockey, getting rid of ODI and the penalties and the assists, and I do the same as he does, and it makes that game an awful lot easier. The way I do this, I find it makes the substitutions an awful lot easier. The one thing I didn't actually mention is that if you take somebody out and if you substitute somebody and it's not on a minute card, then I add one, so they work their number of minutes plus a little bit extra for the minute that they the partial minute that they went out of the game. Hope that's been helpful. Let me know. Let me know if you think that there's a better way of doing it, because I'm obviously quite happy to use somebody else's suggestion if it's going to be better. Until next time, and hopefully maybe the Clippers and the New Jersey Nets will be a game I'll be recording the fourth period from, who knows. But have a good evening, and we'll talk again.